Welcome back. We are getting into the messy part of fertility today.
The messy part is basically most of it, right?
We are talking about lifestyle, cycles, PCOS, and why timing matters so much.
Okay, so the big idea is fertility is not just luck, it is a health signal?
Exactly. Your cycle can tell you a lot before anything dramatic happens.
That already sounds like bad news for people who ignore everything until they panic.
Pretty much, yes.
What surprised me is how much they tied infertility to everyday habits.
Sleep, stress, weight, toxins, smoking, marijuana, all of it adds up.
So basically, modern life is holding fertility hostage.
That is not totally wrong.
The smoking part felt especially brutal, though.
Cigarette smoke can damage eggs and even make menopause happen earlier.
Earlier menopause is wild. That is not a tiny side effect.
No, it is the body literally losing eggs faster than it should.
And the language of the ovaries as a vault is actually a pretty good image.
It makes it easier to understand why damage can be about quality and quantity.
So it is not just eggs disappearing, it is also eggs getting worse?
Yes, both can happen at the same time.
That feels like the theme of the whole episode, actually.
The body is always giving signals, and people miss them until they are louder.
Sleep was one of those things that sounded almost too simple to matter.
Yet it matters a lot because repair happens when you sleep.
So the glamorous fertility intervention is basically go to bed?
That and stop microwaving plastic like it owes you money.
That line should be on a warning label.
The toxins discussion was huge because people touch and eat things every day without noticing.
The takeout container thing hit me, because nobody feels dangerous eating leftovers.
Heat can make chemicals leach into food, and then you are consuming them too.
Wonderful. Even the chicken is doing chemical science now.
Exactly. And the scary part is how normal it all feels.
They also seemed pretty strong on processed foods and sugar.
Because inflammation matters, and that affects sperm, eggs, and embryo quality.
That is such a humiliating sentence for a bag of snacks.
I know, but it is hard to argue with the pattern.
Red meat was interesting because the answer was not just yes or no.
Right. It was about amount and type, not some dramatic moral verdict.
People love turning nutrition into religion, and then reality ruins the sermon.
That is exactly why moderation kept coming up.
Fish seemed like the cleaner recommendation, but even that had limits.
3 times a week was the rough ceiling because of mercury concerns.
And whole-fat dairy over skim milk was a big switch from old diet culture.
Yes, because hormones need fat, and skim is basically processed dairy.
Fat is back in fashion, fertility edition.
For once, yes.
Exercise was where it got really nuanced, because people always assume more is better.
Too much exercise can shut down ovulation, but too little can also hurt hormones.
So the sweet spot is somehow not becoming an athlete or a couch?
Exactly. Just normal movement that you can sustain.
And for people with higher weight, exercise can actually help reset the signal.
It can lower excess estrogen from fat tissue and improve brain-ovary communication.
That part was fascinating, because the brain is making decisions off bad data.
The brain thinks it is seeing an egg signal, when sometimes it is just extra estrogen.
PCOS seems like the most extreme version of that whole mismatch.
It often is, because the ovary and brain are not coordinating properly.
The undiagnosed number was the part that felt most alarming.
A lot of people have it and do not know, which is why symptoms matter so much.
And some people think it is just about being overweight, which is too simplistic.
Exactly. Thin people can absolutely have PCOS too.
So more eggs in the vault sounds like a gift until it starts causing chaos.
More eggs does not always mean better signaling, and that is the trap.
The hormone feedback loop sounds like a system that can get annoyed very easily.
That is one way to describe the ovaries, yes.
And the treatment angle is not just pregnancy, it is also long-term protection.
Right. If someone is not ovulating, they are also missing progesterone, and that matters.
So skipping periods is not a harmless convenience thing at all.
Not if it is happening without birth control, no.
The cancer risk part made that very real very fast.
Endometrial cancer risk goes up when the lining keeps building without regular shedding.
That is one of those things people ignore because it feels distant until it is not.
Exactly. And people also feel shame around it instead of asking for help.
That shame piece was actually one of the hardest parts for me to hear.
Fertility struggles can feel isolating, especially when people blame themselves.
And the timing piece makes everything more emotional because the clock is loud.
It is, especially when people start trying later and want multiple children.
So sex becomes this weird project management exercise.
Sometimes, yes, and that is why people get frustrated.
But the numbers are honestly brutal after a certain age.
They are, because monthly chances drop and the pressure rises fast.
Nothing kills romance like spreadsheets and ovulation windows.
And yet here we are.
The better advice seemed to be have sex regularly instead of trying to hoard sperm.
Yes, every day or every other day is often enough without overcomplicating it.
I did not expect the clinic side to get so practical, like intrauterine insemination.
It can be a useful option when timing or intercourse is difficult.
The Petri dish image is going to stay with me for a while.
Most people do not need the whole decorative version of the sample.
That was a very elegant way to say that.
The bigger issue is protecting parental rights and making the process safe.
The donor sperm Facebook group thing was genuinely insane to me.
It shows how expensive and emotionally loaded family building can be.
And the custody lawsuit after an informal agreement is nightmare fuel.
Exactly why people need formal legal and medical protections.
I feel like the whole episode kept repeating one idea in different forms.
Your body is constantly talking, and fertility is one of its loudest messages.
That is the most useful takeaway, honestly.
And it is also a reminder that tiny changes can matter sooner than people think.
Tiny changes, huge consequences, the most annoying slogan ever.
True, but it is real.
Next episode, I want the deeper end of the conversation because this got very real fast.
We are going there, and it gets even more interesting from here.
All right, we will pick it up there and keep digging.
Next time, we go even further into what the body is trying to tell us.
Welcome back. This one gets into fertility, habits, and the body's warning signs.
We are basically asking why so many systems are getting louder, earlier, and more obvious.
And also why everyone waits until the alarm is on fire before listening.
That is exactly the problem, because fertility is often a health marker first.
That idea is wild to me because people treat it like a totally separate department.
It is not separate, because sleep, stress, toxins, weight, and inflammation all show up there.
So the body is basically sending receipts before the actual disaster.
Exactly. And sometimes the receipts are years early if people pay attention.
Okay, then start with the annoying one. Sleep.
Sleep is when the body repairs damage, and without enough of it, hormones get messy.
So the fix is not a supplement. It is literally closing your eyes.
Basically, yes. And 7.5 to 8 hours matters more than people want to admit.
That is such an unfair answer because it is also the correct one.
It is boring, but boring is often where the real leverage lives.
The toxin part is where people start panicking because now suddenly the pan is guilty.
Not guilty, but some things absolutely matter, like plastic, receipts, and heated containers.
The airport receipt can hurt my fertility? That is absurdly modern.
The issue is exposure plus heat, because chemicals can leach into food and get consumed.
So the takeout box is not the villain. It is the warm little chemical sauna.
That is exactly the image. And yes, it is smarter to move food into glass or a plate.
What I keep hearing is that fertility is really about the quality of the environment.
Yes, because the egg and sperm are living in the environment you create every day.
So when people say genetics, you are saying lifestyle still runs a huge part of the show.
Genetics matter, but lifestyle can push systems toward better or worse expression.
And that goes into diet too, which is where everyone gets defensive instantly.
Because nobody wants their dinner judged, but processed food and refined sugar are not neutral.
My favorite thing is people acting shocked that processed meat is not a fertility superfood.
Processed meat is consistently the bigger issue, and red meat is more about amount.
So this is not a purity contest, it is a moderation contest.
Exactly, and fruits, vegetables, and fiber are doing a lot more than people give them credit for.
Wait, whole-fat dairy is better than skim dairy? That sounds illegal in old wellness culture.
It does, but fat matters for steroid hormones, so the full-fat version often wins.
The wellness internet must have hated hearing that one.
People overcorrected on fat for years, and fertility is one place that correction shows up.
Exercise is the other one where people assume more automatically means better.
Too little exercise and too much exercise can both disrupt ovulation.
So the person doing marathon prep and the person doing nothing can both be off.
Yes, because the brain is reading energy availability and deciding whether pregnancy is safe.
That is such a brutal system, like your body is running a tiny audit.
It really is, and if calories are too low or stress is too high, the signal gets shut down.
So when a woman loses her period for years, that is not just a weird cycle thing.
No, it is a warning sign, and long gaps without periods are medically important.
That feels like one of those things people normalize because they do not want to deal with it.
And shame makes that worse, because people hide it instead of getting help.
PCOS seems like the big crossroads here because it can look like so many different things.
It is one of the most common causes of irregular periods and infertility.
And most people with it are undiagnosed? That is a huge number.
Yes, because the diagnosis is often missed unless someone looks at the whole pattern.
So what is actually happening in PCOS in plain language?
There is often an egg and hormone signaling mismatch, so follicles do not mature cleanly.
And then testosterone rises because the ovary gets bored, which is such a cursed sentence.
It sounds strange, but that higher testosterone can drive acne, hair growth, and belly weight.
So then weight becomes part of the loop, not just the outcome.
Exactly, because more body fat can make more estrogen and further confuse the brain.
The body is basically getting bad data and then making worse decisions.
That is a very good way to put it, because the brain is trying to interpret signals correctly.
And if someone has PCOS but is thin, that still happens?
Yes, absolutely, because not every case is driven by weight.
That matters, because people love turning every medical problem into a character flaw.
And this is not a failure of discipline, it is a real medical condition.
The cancer piece also changes the seriousness of missing periods.
Yes, if you are not ovulating, you are not making progesterone, and the lining can build up.
So the body is not just being irregular, it can actually be storing risk.
Exactly, which is why doctors care so much about regular bleeding in the right context.
The sex timing part is where it starts feeling like math homework.
It can feel like that, but sperm can live for days and the egg only for about 1 day.
Nature really said maximum 5 days of planning, good luck.
Pretty much, which is why regular sex every day or every other day can help.
And people do the opposite, right? Because they think saving it helps.
All the time, and that is usually the wrong instinct.
IUI sounds like the universe giving us a very clinical escape hatch.
It is helpful when timing or logistics make intercourse hard because the sperm can be placed directly in the uterus.
But then the sperm donation world gets weird fast, right?
Very weird, because some people use informal donors without protecting legal rights.
The idea of a custody fight over a Facebook sperm deal is insane.
It happens, which is why clinics and sperm banks exist with testing and legal structure.
So the money is not just for sperm, it is for safety and certainty.
Exactly. And family building gets complicated very quickly when the legal side is ignored.
That is the part nobody wants to think about until everything gets ugly.
And fertility struggles already bring enough shame without adding chaos on top.
That feels like the biggest theme here, honestly. The body is talking long before the crisis.
Yes, and the earlier people listen, the more options they usually have.
All right, so the boring habits are actually the expensive ones to ignore.
That is the thesis, and it is annoyingly practical.
Next episode, I want to go deeper on what happens when those warning signs get missed.
Perfect, because then we get into the more intense edge cases and what they teach us.
All right, we will leave it there and come back with the bigger questions.
Next time, we go even further into how the body protects itself and when it stops.
Welcome back, because this episode gets into the annoying truth that habits hit fertility hard.
And the body usually gives warnings way before people realize it.
Which is rude, honestly, because nobody wants homework from their hormones.
But the homework is real, and ignoring it gets expensive fast.
The thing that keeps hitting me is how fertility is basically a health report card.
Exactly, and a lot of people only look once the grades are already terrible.
Wait, even sperm counts can change over just a few months?
Yes, And that is why lifestyle changes can matter in 3 to 6 months.
So this is not just panic and doom. There is actual room to intervene?
A lot of room, especially when people catch problems early.
Classic human behavior, wait until the dashboard is on fire.
Pretty much, and then they act surprised the engine is upset.
The smoking part was brutal, though, because it is not just lungs.
Cigarettes can damage eggs, sperm, and even push menopause earlier.
Earlier menopause because of smoking is wild.
The eggs inside the ovarian reserve are getting destroyed over time.
So the jar is not just aging, it is actually getting emptied and damaged?
Yes, both quantity and quality can be affected.
That is such a nasty 1-2 punch.
It is, and alcohol, marijuana, and cocaine also show up as toxic behaviors.
4 drinks a week counts as moderate?
That is the kind of threshold fertility discussions often use.
Britain just heard that and immediately looked away.
A lot of people do not realize how common that level is.
The environmental stuff is where my brain starts spiraling a little.
Plastics, receipts, takeout containers, and heat all matter more than people think.
You are telling me airport receipts are part of the fertility conversation?
They can be, because some of those thermal papers carry chemicals.
So the receipt is now an enemy combatant.
I mean, maybe not the receipt itself, but the chemistry is not ideal.
And microwaving plastic is one of those obvious things people still do anyway.
Yes, and the heat can increase leaching into the food.
That is such a painful combination, convenience plus risk.
And the research is stronger than people assume, even if human studies are messy.
Messy because you cannot run people like lab rats?
Exactly, so population studies and cohorts matter a lot here.
The sleep piece felt almost insultingly simple.
7.5 to 8 hours is one of the easiest wins.
The body really said, just go to bed. That is the intervention.
It is boring, but boring works.
Stress seems trickier because everyone thinks their stress is special.
It is individualized, which is why one-size-fits-all advice misses.
So, for some people, it is yoga. For others, it is a walk. For others, it is therapy.
Yes, the point is to get cortisol down and give your brain a break.
20 minutes without a screen sounds almost luxurious now.
It really should feel protective. Not optional.
Food was another huge one, especially processed stuff and refined sugar.
Those foods are linked with inflammation and worse egg or sperm quality.
Red meat seemed more nuanced than the internet would allow.
It is about amount, not some magical moral failure of meat.
The internet hates nuance. It needs a villain with a logo.
Exactly, but the data says moderation matters more than drama.
Fish made more sense to me, except for the mercury part.
Fish is a great option, just not endlessly and not the highest mercury choices.
Even fertility gets a seafood instruction manual now.
Apparently, yes.
The dairy point was surprising too, because whole fat is better than skim here.
Whole fat dairy has been associated with better ovulation and fertility.
Because removing the fat is not just removing fat, it changes the product.
Right. It becomes a processed version of itself.
That is a very polite way to say food got weird.
Pretty much.
Exercise felt like the most misunderstood part of all this.
Because both extremes are bad and context changes everything.
Like too much training can shut periods down completely.
Yes, the brain can stop sending FSH and LH if energy is too low.
The body basically says, no pregnancy, we are in emergency mode.
Exactly, and the same thing can happen with eating disorders.
And recovery can take years, not weeks.
It can, because the hypothalamus has to trust the system again.
On the other side, being overweight can also confuse the brain.
Yes, fat tissue makes estrogen, and that can disrupt signaling.
So the brain sees fake estrogen and thinks an egg is already growing?
That is the basic problem, yes.
That is such a ridiculous biological prank.
Biology is rude like that.
And in men, extra fat can drag testosterone down too.
Yes, and that can reduce sperm production as well.
Then somebody walks into a clinic and gets put on testosterone, and sperm hits 0.
That is why male fertility needs careful thinking, not just symptom treatment.
The cycle stuff was one of the clearest explanations I have heard.
A regular period is predictable, usually within a few days each month.
And the whole cycle is basically egg growth, ovulation, progesterone, then bleeding.
Yes, and no period usually means no ovulation unless you are on birth control.
Which means missing periods is not some cute quirk.
It can signal PCOS, hypothalamic dysfunction, thyroid problems, or other issues.
PCOS seems like the huge one everybody knows by name but not by meaning.
It is common, often underdiagnosed, and tied to irregular ovulation.
You framed it as being born with more eggs, which is fascinating.
That is one way it can present, and the brain never adjusts properly.
So the signal gets diluted because there are too many eggs in the pool?
Exactly. And then the ovary starts making more testosterone.
And then acne, facial hair, weight gain, all that follows.
Yes, and insulin resistance can make the cycle worse.
Which is why weight loss helps some people, but not all people.
Right. Not everyone with PCOS is overweight, and not everyone can fix it with lifestyle alone.
That part matters, because people already blame themselves enough.
They do, and some people truly need medications or IVF support.
The endometrial cancer risk with missed periods was a wake-up call.
Without progesterone and bleeding, that lining can build up too much.
So the period is not just annoying, it is maintenance.
Exactly, it is one of the body's safety valves.
All right, that is the perfect way to put it because now it sounds less mysterious.
And less mysterious usually means less shame.
Which is probably the biggest win here, honestly.
Yes, because people deserve information without feeling broken.
Good place to pause because we have dragged the body into the witness box enough.
It has been thoroughly cross-examined.
Episode 3 is where we get into what happens when the warning signs are ignored.
And the tougher edge cases, the ones that force people to rethink everything.
Welcome back. This one gets into the body's warning lights and the habits that keep flickering them on.
We're talking fertility as a health marker, not some mysterious lottery.
That shift alone feels huge because people wait until everything is already on fire.
Exactly. And earlier testing can actually give you time to change things.
Like finding out sperm count is low and still having months to intervene?
Yes, sometimes 3 to 6 months can matter a lot.
The body really does love a deadline, apparently.
It does, tragically.
So what are the big lifestyle villains here, the obvious ones and the sneaky ones?
Smoking, obesity, heavy drinking, marijuana, stress, sleep loss, and environmental toxins all matter.
The plastic container thing surprised me more than I expected.
Heat makes chemicals leach, so microwaving food in plastic is a bad habit.
So the takeout box is basically doing a side quest against your eggs.
That is unfortunately a fair way to say it.
And sleep seems almost too simple to be real.
Sleep is when the body repairs itself, so undersleeping keeps inflammation running.
Which means the easiest fix is also the one everyone ignores.
People do, and they pay for it later in very quiet ways.
Then exercise becomes tricky because too little is bad and too much can shut things down.
Right, the body wants balance, not punishment.
The body basically says, marathon training and pregnancy are not roommates.
That is exactly right.
And PCOS is one of those places where the warning signs get really loud, right?
Yes, irregular periods, acne, hair growth, weight changes. All of it can point there.
And not having a period at all is a real health problem, not a convenience issue.
Absolutely, because it can mean no progesterone, which raises endometrial cancer risk.
That part feels scary because people normalize it so easily.
They do, and that normalization is one of the reasons shame is so dangerous.
And then the stress piece is weirdly personal because it is different for everyone.
Exactly. Yoga helps some people, walks help others, therapy helps others.
So basically the prescription is stop pretending the body is infinite.
That would save a lot of trouble.
All right, this was one of those episodes that makes habits feel way less abstract.
And hopefully a little less shameful too.
We'll leave it there for now, and next time we get into what happens when people miss these signs for years.
Episode 3 is where the story gets a lot messier, and honestly a lot more revealing.